ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking Fear No Evil on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Upper State New York. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest of details of 1981's Fear No Evil in the hopes that a doomed high school student's death is just the beginning of the jokes that we can make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust that if we make a sacred promise to become reincarnated over and over again to kill Lucifer, she will actually tell me when she's quote unquote in body. The one and only Gena Radcliffe. How are you doing, Gena?
I'm good. I've got my cloak. I've got my sacred dagger.
Oh, nice.
You know, I was thinking that in over the 3 years we've been doing Kill by Kill, this is the very first movie that we have done that's covered the Antichrist.
Yes, this is virgin territory for us.
I mean, we can say, you could make a reasonable argument that we did The Visitor, but remember that was Satine.
Yeah,
completely different. This is Satan.
Satine is rights reserved, whereas Lucifer is definitely trademarked.
TM.
TM. From God Incorporated. This is interesting. I thought it an interesting companion to the Nightmare on Elm Street series, considering one, it's very high school set, and so is this, and two is that listen, we're talking about the reason for the season, Lucifer, and him coming back and setting everything right and bleeding foreheads. That's what December is all about. Can
I let you and the listeners in a little bit of trivia about this movie?
Absolutely.
You know how everybody has that one when they were kids, that one video box cover art that kind of freaked them out, and they knew they would never ever rent that movie because it was obviously too terrifying. This was the one for me. I have a very distinct memory of seeing the cover, which is sort of a burning yearbook. And he's got his little Satan eyes, and for some reason I was like, oh man, that's some heavy shit there. Let me not rent this.
There cannot be good, and is probably set in Upper State New York.
But it has a Bishop soundtrack, so.
Here's the good news. This movie is bonkers. It is kind of fucking nuts. That's great. I think it is entertaining. It's a stately entertaining, but it is entertaining nonetheless. And the soundtrack is fucking rocking, man. Whoever pulled this duty really knocked it out of the park. There are some killer fucking tunes. I mean, between this and Skate Town, USA, we've had some great soundtracks as of late.
And yet somehow this is the better movie than Skate Town, USA.
Questionable on that one. But before we go much further, I don't want to alarm you, Gena. We are not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. He is a returning champion to Kill by Kill, a writer, columnist, and one half of the Horror Queers podcast, the one and the only Joe Lipsett. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm well. Thank you for inviting me back. I prepped by wearing my little short shorts, and then I also have my sleeveless cape, Gena.
Oh,
good. Dude, I like a prepared guest.
Yes. Sometimes you don't want a full formal cape. You want something that can move with you, especially if you're being active and outdoors, let's say at an abandoned castle.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to have some mobility.
with your little punk rock hairdo.
Yeah, there was a lot of dippity-doo in that hair, wasn't there?
I think there's a lot of dippity. The do is questionable, but we will get to that. So let's, Gena, you brought up the cover art here, and I think it should be noted that it's making a lot of promises the movie may not be able to deliver on. And we've seen this before. It's not the first time we've gone to this particular rodeo. The Friday the 13th franchise, particularly the opening credits, were big into this, where everything would explode. And you're like, but Friday the 13th isn't about explosions, everyone. And like, too late. That mask exploded. So the yearbook exploding, not so much happening in this, although they did put it in the trailer. So it's Fear No Evil is kind of a mix of a lot of different things, and it approaches it in a pretty interesting way. You got a little bit of Carrie, the Omen.
You got a little bit of Rock and Roll High School if everyone was terrible and the devil was in it.
True.
There's a girl gang in it, which was I did not expect them to show up.
This movie, it gives you a skosh of girl gang, and what I would like is a full dollop. And the fact that they have color coordinated satin jackets where one person is the designated purple and
she's
yellow.
the queen.
The queen bee.
They're called the bees, and she's the queen. She looks like Carla Tortelli.
Her hair has dimension and shape, and it stays in one place no matter whether or not she's wearing a beret or not wearing a beret. Everything just kind of sits on top of that mobile mountain of Nerf hair.
The movie opens with a title that says it's upstate New York, but I think when they say upstate New York, they mean the Bronx, going by a lot of the accents in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very Long Island in parts. It's definitely distaff. Whatever it is, the conditions in this area are dire.
It's always gray. Everything's constantly gray all the time. This is like the most washed out movie I've ever seen.
Well, we're on the eve of the apocalypse, people. It's the second coming.
But, weather changes. Like, I've lived on the East Coast occasionally. Like, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It's not always overcast. It's not always on the eve of apocalypse. Sometimes it just washes over. Joe,
don't know what to tell you, Patrick.
I want you to tell me this one thing.
Okay.
Had you ever heard of this fucking movie before I forced you to watch it?
So I had. It turns out I didn't recognize the title when the two of you approached me and said, hey, we've got something terrible. Can you come on? I actually went back over the list that Trace and I maintain for horror queers, and this is on the list because, of course, it does have just a dash of queer content in here, folks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think our note said something like gay shower kiss, Antichrist wears cape. Like Gena, I'd seen the box art, but I've never actually seen the movie. And then Shout Factory, Scream Factory decided to put out a very deluxe Blu-ray of it. And so because I'm a masochist and it looks super weird, I'm like, oh, no. This is my opportunity to see this movie. And as we were watching it, I kept texting Gena, please leave work and start watching this movie. I need someone else to commiserate with.
I need to make sure I'm not going insane, that this is really happening. So as it is December and it's the time of year where people go, I want something a bit more religious and something about home life. Well, we're ticking all the boxes here with Fear No Evil. It's part domestic drama. It's part body hopping sci-fi. It's got Xanadu lights. It's everything.
Yeah, all Grease rejects.
Grease 2 rejects on top of it.
Very true.
So let's get into it. And this movie starts in one of my favorite ways. I just love when backstory is delivered via oil painting.
It's just much classier that way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all the illustrations look like something you could put on the side of a van, which I like. Like, that's my kind of cinema.
Well, yeah, if you can't get it in a stained glass window, you might as well have it on the side of a van.
That's right. Only the holiest of holies. So this movie gives us a bit of a backstory about,
made up bullshit in the book. Basically, Lucifer is cast down from heaven, and God, being the pretty righteous dude that he is, sends 3 archangels after him named Michael, Gabriel,
Michael, for some reason. Michael. Put a little Russian flair on it.
Raphael. Which one is good with machines? Which one carries the nunchucks?
But they all like pizza, correct?
They all like pizza, and they all live in the sewer.
They are all cool dudes.
with attitude. One of them has attitude. I can't remember at all. It's slightly outside of my generational scope.
I think that's like Gabrielle
to me. Anyhow, these Teenage Mutant Ninja Angels are tasked with taking Lucifer down before he can bring about the end times, and then they're all kind of locked in this reincarnation cycle where if Lucifer dies, he gets reincarnated, and if they die, they get reincarnated. So they're not always around all at the same time. I don't know. Someone needs to make a flow chart is what it comes down to. Like God didn't have Excel. Let's work on this.
He couldn't do the mail merge.
That's right. Someone get in the Slack and organize this shit is what it comes down to. So I guess the goal here is to shine Lucifer with a very tall crucifix for long enough that he zaps into Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yep. Now, the thing that's puzzling me is that is this supposed to be presumably the 1950s, 1960s? And dude's wearing leather pants. And like I said, he's got his little Peter Murphy haircut going on there. Mm-hmm. And which is interesting because when we get to Andrew, our I guess he could be the protagonist, and he's both the protagonist and the antagonist.
He's a agonist.
The whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking all this kid needs is some leather pants and a little eyeliner, and he's gonna do all right. He just needs a little touch of goth makeover, and he'll get a date to the prom.
Lucifer could have started a band.
This first version of Lucifer is kind of like the Mr. Hyde of Werewolves of London. He's got a lot of looks going on. He's got bad teeth, and he's got demon eyes, and he's got Peter Murphy's haircut.
And a lot of howling.
It's like the lead singer of the Flock of Seagulls if everything was receding.
Ooh, that's below the belt, Patrick.
Everything is
Flock
receding.
of Seagulls only had the hair. You can't talk about a receding hairline.
And yet I have. Let's talk about other odd placement. And that is this movie opens with a 70-year-old man pulling a rowboat towards a ruin of New York State in what looks like the middle of the day, which quickly becomes night. And I'm surprised there aren't like jet boats behind him. It seems like there'd be a lot more busyness around this lake than what we see. And this ruin produces a couple things. Very localized fog.
So much fog. I thought for a moment that a crew member had accidentally left it on high, and then they were like, well, we got to shoot. We've got a day permit. We need to get out of here in 2 hours.
No, it's a very vaping video version of fog. It's very intense in a very small area. The second thing it's great at is it's great for displaying crucified bodies. Mm-hmm. You got human bodies, you got dead animal bodies, and guess what, kids? Those are real dead animals.
Oh, no.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Yay. And of course, the last thing that it's great at delivering is out of shape antichrists who don't wear shirts.
Yeah, he is a little mushy, isn't he, for being the Antichrist? He's got those like skinny man little boobies. You ever notice that? Like some really skinny men, they just everything's just kind of hanging off of them. They need to put on a little bit of weight.
Yeah, well, he's aged out of when he could just run around shirtless, is what it comes down to, and he's not. But he hasn't kicked up the cardiovascular because he's brought all these other workers onto this island to to build up his castle, and he's kind of gone to seed, is what I get.
Well, this actor is actually the guy who did the makeup, if I'm not mistaken. So I wonder if he was a last-minute replacement, like, oh, John dropped out and we need somebody to play the role of Lucifer for a hot second. So we're going to get this guy in. Yeah, we know you haven't hit the gym in a little while, but it'll be fine. It's like 2 minutes of screen time.
There's a lot of fog. People will never see it. It'll be fine. You're running. When do people ever notice loose flesh when people are running?
Yeah, and if all else fails, just howl. People will be distracted by the howling.
He constantly becomes a bobcat throughout this for no discernible reason. He just turns around, bobcats at a guy, and keeps running the other way. And, this is the kind of chase scene you've always wanted to see. Elderly man with a nose that tells you he's been hitting the scotch tonight. An out-of-shape makeup guy. And it's just cat and mouse between the two of them.
There's so much panting and just like...
You can tell they're breathing hard because you can see everyone's breathing.
Oh, and also if you have the closed captioning, it says heavy breathing.
You would be forgiven for thinking that you are actually watching some kind of alternative pornography or Fear No Evil.
Who can really say what it is at this point? And so if you wanted to see, let's say I'm waffling on whether or not I want to spend time watching Fear No Evil. Well, do you want to see an elderly priest club a Night of the Demons lady multiple times? Well, then this movie is for you.
But not even, because you can see him clearly hitting the ground next to her head. He's about 10 centimeters away.
His aim is not perfect. I will give you that. He does not know his angles. No one in this movie seems to understand their angles or contain angles. So finally, this long drawn out chase, it comes to a close when Lucifer is cornered against a tree. And he just like kind of
he turns around and like hides his face like he's trying to play hide and seek.
Yeah, what is his
you
end
can't see
game
me.
here?
You have object impertinence. Like you won't be able, like a toddler. You don't know if I stop moving, or a T-Rex. You won't see me here.
But what is his end game? Because obviously he could outrun this priest. Because this Father
but
Thomas
it's an island
guy,
and he doesn't have a rowboat. Is that what's holding him back? Or he's like, I got the perfect plan. Now that this is all set up, I'll reincarnate into something else. Is that his end game? I guess
someone younger and hotter.
That's right. Younger, hotter, very afraid of intimate contact. This is my next body. Kill me, priest. And so before he goes, though, he decides to tempt this guy by becoming a cold lady, a lady who needs heat is his play. And then the priest is like, oh, you had to go there. He's like,
I just like how in every movie about demonic possession, that's like a page right on the Devil's Playbook is try to imply that the priest is actually like a pervert.
Well, or just horny, right?
Yeah. And he might be horny. Like, we should find out whether or not he's horny. But based on this evidence, I'm not seeing a lot of horniness in him. He's the one person in this movie who is not written as horny. Everyone else is written as horny and is having trouble conveying that sometimes, but I think that just adds to the charm, personally. So in this ploy to like, hey, don't kill me, I guess he doesn't want to get shined on by the crucifix. So he telekinetically draws the long, thin crucifix into impaling him. And we find out later in the movie that this priest has been convicted in the court of law of killing this guy for stabbing him with this long pole.
And then sent to some kind of medieval Russian prison.
Yes, he's in a castle, Dracul, I believe. where he is staying, or one of the condos just off to the side of Castle Frankenstein. I'm not really sure, but it is dire. It is more dire than the rest of the direness of this movie.
Yeah, the parts with the angels, they manage to feel both underwritten and overwritten at the same time.
Oh, it's so true.
Like they don't really always mesh together with the other half of the story, and a lot of it doesn't really make sense. I mean, jumping ahead a little bit, the character Julie she is one of the angels, and she either does or doesn't realize she's one of the angels. The movie kind of plays around with that. And if she does know that she is an angel, why is she not able to recognize Lucifer immediately?
Yeah, she's real late to the game. I have to think that the idea here is that she does not realize that she is one of these angels. And therefore, when she's visited in the night, a very nervous young man
by a pasty visage, walking away, his little skinny butt is the only thing that's glowing in the room.
There's nothing that gets me hotter than a couple of virgins trying to go through the motions.
Okay.
Sorry, we jumped too far ahead.
Too much. Because there's so much to unpack in that scene. It has to be its own entry. Okay. So we get through the credits, blah, blah, blah. We find that we're in quote unquote upstate New York, which I don't believe is an actual city. That's more of a region. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why this is not given a city.
None of these people are from there.
Oh, no.
They have been imported like the finest New York City cheesecakes into this movie. And
my favorite characters are introduced in this scene. Andrew's parents, Greg and Marion. I love them so much. They're just, they started hysterical and only get up from there.
They the problem this movie has is it.
Well, for starters, they're like 60 and the parents of a newborn child.
Yes.
It took me so long to figure out if they were just grandparents who had been saddled with some kind of runaway daughter's child or not. I couldn't figure it out until I think Andrew turns 18, and then they were still in the picture. And it was only then that I realized, oh, that's meant to be their baby. Oh.
Yeah, they don't age until very late in the movie because they start out looking exactly the same way that they will supposedly 18 years later. So the movie starts in 1963 at the birth / they're going to have the baby confirmed. Is that what's
baptized?
Here? I'm not baptized. Okay. So we get to see that they're having a grand party at their house, which is right off the lake. So
Marion is like losing her mind. He won't stop crying. I don't know what's wrong with the baby. She stays in this mode till Andrew is 17. Just weepy and angry and fretful.
Well, it's very time consuming raising Lucifer from a baby. He's fiery and he's not pleased.
And when you put holy water on him, he becomes covered in barbecue sauce.
When they go to church for this baptism, church where the elite meet to bleed from their head to their feet.
You're so proud of that one, aren't you?
He's been workshopping that one for a couple of days, methinks.
That's a real deep reference, right? So when they start this baptism, then they drip some holy water on this kid's head. Barbecue sauce or Szechuan sauce. Something not quite ketchup.
It just sprays in everybody's faces.
Oh my God.
Kind of gloops on people.
When that altar boy got it in the eye, I'm sorry, again, I was like, wait, are we watching pornography? Because that was some bloody ejaculate, not gonna lie.
it's viscous. Like at some points, it's far too watery, and in others, it's like, well, you need to water that down, and they can't decide which it is.
No.
But my absolute favorite part of this scene is that after everyone gets either splashed with water or they're spontaneously bleeding from their forehead, the mom runs down the center aisle of the church, and dad's like, Marion.
But it takes him a good 15 seconds to react. He just stands there, and then she's like practically out the door, and then he starts after her. Like, what do you think has been happening?
Yeah, he's acting like she rushed out of the Olive Garden during all-you-can-eat pasta week. Not like, we're covered in blood that happened after my child was baptized. And he's kind of like, don't embarrass me. The embarrassment has happened. Everyone is bleeding, dude.
There are some remarkable line readings between the dad and the gym teacher later in the movie. Yeah. I thought for a split second they were almost played by the same actor.
Yes, they look very similar.
They looked alike. They both had this, strangulated line delivery, like someone was holding them by the throat while they were talking, and it's remarkable.
No one has any idea how they come off on screen, and they don't want to learn.
Yeah.
And no one's telling them either. They filmed a bunch of things happening, and that's what I find fascinating about it, is it's pure amateur hour with the grandest of aspirations.
Oh, yeah. I think that this movie thinks that it is making some kind of large-scale religious thriller.
Yes.
And it's actually like, we might as well have had a couple of mops, interacting on, it's
garage sale Omen. That's what it comes down to. It's not even trying to rip off the Omen. It's more like, like an Omen movie, anyone can make one of those, which is not true.
No.
It's barely true for slasher movies, but it certainly isn't true for Omen movies.
Yeah, you got I think Damien, Omen 2 would come out at this point when Damien was a teenager. I feel like somebody watched that and say, okay, well, he's about 14 here. What if we made him 17?
And sexy.
Well, did they?
No, they did not. But they tried so hard.
I mean, he's definitely trying to go for some sort of very goth look, which is a little bit ahead of its time for 1981. Like I said, if he, all he needed to do was get that kind of hair flap in his face, and the eyeliner and the all black clothing, and he would have been going on tour Bauhaus.
If this movie had leaned into its soundtrack and gone punk, can you imagine how much better it would have been?
Amazing.
Yes, I feel it's like it's very close to actually managing to pull this off. If they had just cast it a little bit better.
You mean not going with 80-year-olds, but also 17-year-olds as your primary cast members?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, the all the actors playing adult characters look 70, and all the actors playing teenagers look 35, and it's very disorienting.
Yeah, no one is what they seem.
This movie is a long con.
It really is. But I'm not entirely sure what the con is.
No.
After the baptism, we get a montage.
I love this, the house slowly falling apart because apparently the devil doesn't let you fix your shingles either.
Yeah, like somehow the devil somehow makes you not be able to do basic home repair. Yeah. Is that what the premise of this movie is?
Yeah, he's soaking up so much of their time and energy that they couldn't even think about changing a light bulb or maybe putting a new roof on.
I guess doing parlor tricks, because once we get into this very dilapidated house, we learn a couple different things. One, Andrew, the Antichrist, is turning 18 and is able to move about as a shadow. Mm-hmm. That's a neato. 2, the dad is wearing the pants of someone who rings the Salvation Army bell outside of a supermarket.
Oh, ouch.
It turns out he's a mailman, but it literally took me watching this movie twice to figure that out, because I thought the mailman was the same guy who was the coach, because they both look alike.
Maybe they're
Yeah, they
related.
do. It's jarring how much they look alike.
Very distracting.
3, I'm not sure why the birthday cake needs to be picked up for it to be relit by matches when there's a perfectly good box of matches next to the cake. Why do they have to take it near the kitchen?
Oh my god! And the Greg drops the cake, and Marion just like flips her fucking lid. Oh my god, the cake!
I loved it. I loved it when she slapped him the first time, and then he said, "Don't do it again," and then she slapped him again, and I loved it.
And I like how she's laying on the floor and just kind of pondering whether or not she should pull the iron down her head, and then she's like, "Yeah, all right, plank."
You know what? I'm not going to get out of this marriage any other way, so I guess the iron it is.
Just please, iron, take me away. Be the Calgon Bubbles of my life and get me out of this marriage and out of raising this child. And yet does it. It turns out, no, this does not kill her. She reappears, strangely enough, later in the movie.
She's paralyzed? Is she paralyzed?
Or comatose in a way.
She's come down with Lady Havisham disease, by the looks of it. She's just pale and covered in cobwebs. There are cobwebs on her.
I love that he's trying to help her smoke. I wasn't supposed to laugh at that scene, I don't think.
If the iron isn't going to kill her, maybe lung cancer down the road.
And how does she not have like a little like iron-shaped mark on her forehead? Because that's just like something the scene really lacked.
Yeah. Are you telling me that's the one thing that
that's your one continuity error?
Put on
Gina, we have bigger fish to fry here.
Oh, man, if this movie only had bigger fish to fry. Anyways, cue the Boomtown Rats. I hate Mondays, because it's time to go to the most dilapidated and brown-looking school I've ever seen. It looks like a prison that's just putting on some school.
So, yes, it's a high school.
Yeah, well, every school in California looks like it was built in 1956 because they all were. So I am very unused to high schools or school buildings that have any more age on them than that. Another thing about this school, you can be one of two people. You can either be dressed like an extra in Disco Godfather, or someone whose mob money paid to make Disco Godfather. There are two modes.
Yeah, you got your Vinny's Barbarinos. There's quite a few of them.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the Night Stalker of Vinny Barbarinos.
Oh,
that Tony is.
Yeah.
He's got baby teeth, but he has great hair.
There's something so odd about the faces of a lot of people in the teenage cast. His is one of them. Why is that face so big and round and those teeth so sonic small?
Really, it's worth $35 million if they just went back and made his teeth normal.
The crowd demands it.
Yes. Twitter will quiet down and we'll be happy with the end result.
Yeah. Where was the outrage in 1981?
I don't know. Where was this movie in 1981? Was it seen in theaters? We might never know. Other teenagers that we meet through here are Tony's paramour, on again, off again, Love, the queen bee of the bee girls, Marie. She's played by Rosanna, don't fuck with her. And then we meet Julie, and she's
vacant.
Yeah, she's our heroine, ladies and gentlemen.
She is a body that is on screen.
Like, light doesn't pass through her, so I know she's real. She's not a special effect. But also, the movie does not worry about giving her lines. Like, if people were giving her the kind of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood treatment, or The Irishman, where they were counting the amount of times that she spoke, they would be up in arms. But also, when she does speak, you kind of wonder if she is anyways.
Yeah, it's better if she doesn't.
I'd say that she's a pretty face.
Oh.
I'm trying to be positive. I've called out a man's baby.
This is not a. To be fair, this is not a cast of lookers.
I disagree. I think her boyfriend is reasonably attractive before he dies in a terrible dodgeball accident.
Don't give away the farm.
Sorry.
Well, of course, we're talking about Mark, who is Julie's boyfriend and appears to be as dumb as a broken flip-flop.
But he also says that he gets into, what is it, Stanford?
He gets into Columbia.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure he means the university or the record club.
Maybe he meant the country.
That's true. He might have gotten his passport, and that would be great because he needs to go out into the world and learn something. He is beautiful but dumb.
Yes.
He's definitely the looker of the crew.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
He looks like he's imported from a Friday the 13th, whereas everyone else from this cast was maybe imported from Europe.
If he's a Friday the 13th, we're really dipping into Madman Mars territory with everyone else.
Yeah, these are not lookers. These are not professional actors. The actor that plays Andrew was a child actor. I think he was known for the show Land of the Giants.
Yes. But he's actually shown up in a bunch of things.
He was most recently on an episode of Fargo, which I was surprised by. I don't remember him at all in it.
Nope.
But probably the most interesting bit of trivia about him is that he is the brother of Allison Arngrim, who plays Nellie Olson.
Oh.
Yeah, but there's some dark stuff there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should bring that up or not. But
yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Not for joking, stuff.
No.
Oh. Okay. I'm unaware of this. So, shall we sweep it under the rug, or do we?
Well, we'll talk about the character. This is more the actor than a real life thing. We'll focus on the character.
Okay, let's do that then.
What can we say about Andrew?
He's pasty.
Light almost passes through him.
Yeah, he is glowing. And not in the healthy, youthful sort of glowing.
Like the cast with the friendly ghost glow.
Yeah.
He's got a wormy quality to him. And the problem here is if you're going to have teenage Satan, right? He should probably be alluring in some way.
Some level of charismatic.
Yes. Because even Carrie, you're drawn to her. Even though you understand that she's awkward and that obviously everyone else, castigates her as an outsider, and you can see why she's put in that box. That's one thing. But also you cast Carrie as a person that you might like in other circumstances. Here, Andrew is someone who looks like you wouldn't like them in high school just from the way they look.
He's an awkward Carrie's awkward in a kind of lonely and bullied sort of way. Andrew is awkward in a tearing the wings off of flies sort of way.
Yeah, he's giving off a little bit of teenage sociopath, but he's also he's such a wallflower that he's not even a character that you can root for because you don't know anything about him.
Yeah, you mentioned that Julie doesn't get a lot of dialogue. Andrew doesn't either. At least in the first half of the movie, he does not talk very much.
No, during the sort of no exit set piece of this movie, set in the high school's parking lot, where toadies blame their ability to open doors on girlfriends who get smacked around, and it's all set to the Sex Pistols. Andrew watches all of this from an outdoor staircase that kind of looks like a bird cage.
Yes. I actually quite like that visual image. This was when the film was really actually working for me, like not even joking around. I was like, okay, they're doing some interesting things, building up these characters. I'm really interested to see where it's going to go. And then they kept bringing in the religious shit.
Yes. That is where it's at its most confused, because I think if it stuck to the bonkers high school element of it, it would probably be more known. Like it would achieve the elements of a Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2, based on how wacky it is. It doesn't have the technical skill to pull off Mary Lou, but it does have the desire to put on that kind of set piece. It's incapable because it's slightly incompetent. Yes. But the incompetence is its charm, in my opinion.
Okay, sure.
It's never not interesting.
I will absolutely agree with you there. It is fascinating, but it's a fascinating mess.
I mean, we're talking about a movie that actually has a character that I don't think they ever give a name to, pulling a, like, what is it? Like a device so that he can open the car door without keys.
Slim Jim.
He pulls it out of his fly. Like,
it's like
why not your pocket?
It's like I forget there's a word for it, but
it's a Slim Jim.
Slim Jim, yeah, right. He just pulls it right out of his pants.
And it's dangerously close to things that you would not want a long, flexible, possibly sharp piece of metal next to. He's not the brightest bulb, we learn throughout the remainder of the film.
But is anyone?
Yeah, Mark, he got into Columbia Record Club. He's going to get all those albums for a penny.
He's going to get that Christopher Cross album he's been wanting.
Actually, if he had survived, he would have gotten the entire soundtrack to this movie on Columbia.
Because it would have been great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the you're right though that the one of the primary issues is that when you think of great performances of the devil, for me at least, I would think Peter Stormare in Constantine, Viggo Mortensen in The Prophecy. They're all very charismatic, seductive, and like I said, this kid comes off like a serial killer. He's just sort of skulking around and he doesn't talk much, and people keep talking about how smart he is, but we don't really see any of that. The part that's frustrating with the montage of the house decaying is we don't get any sort of example of how he apparently has his parents bent to his will. All we know is that he is, driven them apart and apparently ruined their sex life, which, considering they're about 85 years old, how active was their sex life in the first place? But so we don't. This is one of those movies that a lot of it is tell and not show, and that makes it a little frustrating.
Everyone tells Andrew, "Oh, you got an A. Oh, you got into all these colleges," and he kind of just stands around going, "Uh-huh." He's like,
"Oh, that's great, thanks."
Yeah, the only time he truly comes alive is, when he gets a little kiss in the shower,
and when he's doing push-ups.
Yes.
Let's get to Andrew's upper body strength later because there's a lot to be said about it.
His little noodle arms.
Just quickly to review, apparently Andrew's dad is a mailman and he delivers mail to the English countryside via tricycle. He has an adult tricycle.
There was a couple times I was like, where does this take place?
I spent a couple of times being like, is this actually a dubbed foreign Italian film? And then these scenes involving Margaret, one of our, religious angels. Yeah, I was like, wait, is this also partially set in the UK? So bizarre.
Yeah, it seems like a completely different film. It's totally overexposed. It's amateur hour. It's no one knows. Everyone knows that the camera points in a certain direction and that's where the actors should act. But I'm not entirely sure they know anything else about filmmaking. The language of film seems foreign to almost everyone involved in this.
Yep.
And yet it has these wonderful goofball touches. Later on, we cut to this abandoned castle island in the middle of a lake. in upper state New York.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the backstory of the castle delivered to us by a jovial riverboat captain. Not that we see, we just overhear from his speaker, as the boat passes by the island's castle ruins.
Yep. And it's all very important that we know this entire backstory because it comes to a nothing.
Not in this section of the movie, but later on, we will see some of it pay off in a truly bizarre sequence. But my favorite part of this is when Andrew, who's gotten to this island by flying, walking on water, walking underneath the water like Jason, we don't know. But anyways, he's there to listen to the riverboat captain pass by and tell us that hamburgers and hot dogs are available at the dock when you disembark. And then he goes over to this fountain and he touches it, and a super 70s light show begins to happen out of it. And this goes nowhere. It's just something that happens.
Yeah, I wondered if we were meant to believe that some of this is suggesting like his powers are awakening. But, we've been talking about Carrie, how there's like a moment where she suddenly starts to discover her powers. She suddenly starts to come into her own like a coming of age film should. And in this case, it seems like he gives, he gives the book back to Julie, and is that meant to be the moment? Like he gets a little twinge below the belt and then he can produce light shows out of fountains?
Well, that's puberty.
I mean, I don't know if you've experienced puberty yet, Joe, but
I'm working on it. Maybe in the new year.
When a young boy becomes a man, he touches a fountain.
Okay.
Light comes out of it.
Oh.
And that's how you know it's time to find that special someone.
Right. Now, is it also true that if I smoke pot that I'll grow tits?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
Everyone I knew in high school who smoked pot grew tits. And the good news is most of them were women. That landed with such an audible thud that it's gotta stay in.
We're firing on all cylinders.
No joke I've told in nearly 4 years of this podcast has landed so badly.
I mean, we're having a good laugh now.
So Tony drives up in his car and he gaslights his domestic abuse victim back into his car for a ride to school.
Oof.
And he's listening. Everyone in town, I guess, is listening to a radio station that is. They're all playing. What's the name of the? Talking Heads. They're all playing Talking Heads.
But none of these people listen to Talking Heads. Not a single one. Not a single person.
They're not the target demographic.
And yet, this movie contains the rockinest fucking soundtrack.
It's so good. So good.
It is. Like, how were they such tremendous amateurs when it came to every other component of this movie? And the guy who's pulling soundtrack for them is like, you'll never believe this band, this foursome that is playing CBGBs on Tuesdays. I'm going to fit them into this soundtrack.
And Patti Smith, which is just like, okay, sure, why not?
Sure, okay.
Tony's going to listen to Patti Smith.
It's up his alley, right?
Oh, there's a lot of things up his alley. And so, this is Mark tells Julie that he has been accepted to attend Columbia, and that soon they will be Dr. Mark and Mrs. Dr. Mark.
Mm-hmm.
She could not.
That becomes his new first name.
She could not look more confused in this scene.
It is genuinely confusing.
She just looks like absolutely baffled at what, I mean, he's trying to propose to her badly, but yes. She just looks like, perturbed and then confused and then kind of a little happy and then a little nauseous, and just her brow stays permanently furrowed in this movie.
That's the
She's
5
asked-
stages of marriage proposal.
She's asked what is basically a yes or no question. I'm sure there's a couple variants to it, but it's basically yes or no. And her response is, quote, "Do I have any choice?" Yes, Julie, you get a choice as to whether or not you want to marry Mark. Would you like to make it now or later?
I never even got the impression that they were a longtime couple, because in the classroom scene, like, he's just kind of looking at her and smiling, and like, you know, like you would kind of look at someone that you have a crush on.
Mhm.
And then like the next scene, and they're heavily making out in the back of his car.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then he's proposing to her.
But she's like entranced by whatever's on the chalkboard. Like, she's like, oh, look, writing with words. I like words.
Well, maybe it's because her angel persona has been hiding within, so the human part of her is basically just the wattage of a 30-watt light bulb or so.
It's a dull glow.
Just sapping away all of her psychic and spiritual energy.
She's basically just an empty bottle with an angel inside. And until the angel is awakened, well, the bottle has the lid on. We'll put it that way.
So empty bottle does not play up much in the next part of this, because we're going to cut to locker room
Yes.
day. And
Insert more butts than Euphoria's first episode.
which is saying something. There's a fair amount of butts in that show that I watched through my fingers because I could not handle it.
Well, it's because you have a teenager.
Well, I have a pre-teenager. Yeah. Oh my God. All I could think about was no. Anyways, so they all come in from some sort of PE activity that has required them to sweat fucking buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do this thing that I have been asking almost all of the movies that have come into Kill by Kill up until now.
Kiss?
Which is, show me a long line of naked dudes and have a couple of them kiss. That's all I ask.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? We finally get it in the weirdest fashion possible.
This is such a weird scene. I've never seen. Bullying is a cornerstone of horror movies that take place in high school.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a bully. And this bully, they basically are all gang up and flirt with him, which is, you know, aggressively flirt with him. And he says, "Oh, give me a kiss. And he kisses him and he freaks the fuck out.
Well, and this is the thing, right? This is some homo repressed stuff going on here, because it's one thing for the other guys to be like, you guys should kiss, or even like Andrew to like mistakenly make a move or interpret it. But this is 100% Tony going in and initiating it. And it looks like Andrew is the one who's uncomfortable until there's some kind of psychic connection between the two of them. This is also one of the longest boy on boy kisses I have ever seen, maybe ever, but particularly in a horror film, and particularly in an 80s horror film. I thought it was going to be like a peck and then one of them was going to freak out. We're talking probably 10 to 15 seconds here.
Yeah, it's a much more successful queer seduction than, say, Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2, for example, to bring that back into the fold, where it's kind of, that has a little like light kissing on the cheek, almost as if Mary Lou in someone else's body can't determine where someone's mouth is.
I mean, who among us has not had a kiss so good that we ended up on the floor in hysterics?
Yeah.
Shaking. It doesn't, at a certain point, it stops becoming bullying, and it's more like everyone else in the shower is sort of not harassing Andrew, but just encouraging Tony to finally step out of his own way and just kiss this guy that he's always loved.
Right? Well,
just show him how you feel.
Well, we've established that Tony is not a very successful lover because that time that he spends with Marie in the bowels of the high school is very quick, as she is clear to point out.
Yes, I don't know. And I don't know that that's necessarily a sign of homosexual tendencies or just being a teenage boy.
Right.
But he's bad at it. But everyone else is kind of like, hey, Tony, doesn't Andrew's hair look sexy? Which, by the way,
it does not.
It
No.
does not. It's not sexy. Not at all. Also, the environment here, well, I believe the shower can be an erotic space. And I've said many times, I don't believe that the shower is the place to have sex because water dries things where they should be moist.
Yeah.
And sex thrives on moistness. Newsflash to virgins in our audience. But also there's so much calcium buildup, hard water buildup on those shower heads that half of them are going off in entirely different directions than where they're aimed.
I just don't know what the audience is supposed to be thinking or feeling in this scene. Is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be titillating? Is it supposed to be creepy? We don't actually know what Andrew is doing to him that made him so upset. Other than oh shit, I actually like this, which is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, we're left with a lot of questions as a result of this because Tony looks scared, but is it just scared that he liked it or is it scared because something else happened? And then Andrew is like shaking and looks stunned, like the energy has been sucked out of him.
Yeah, like Tony's a soul vampire.
Yeah.
And the kiss has removed him of the powers that he once had to just look into a shower head and really, really clean his face.
Yeah. But I mean, from this point on, this is when we start to see Andrew do terrible things. So if you wanted to go into an unfortunate queer reading, it's basically saying like, well, once you open that door, the only logical step is to start killing dogs.
But at least Lucifer has been killing dogs for a while now. And for all we know, he's been a successful heterosexual and homosexual for decades, centuries, millennia at this point. So it's very odd. Like, I don't know how exactly to take it because he's obviously ruined his parents' life. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he went through puberty at some point during that too, but he was making their life shitty when he was a baby.
Oh, sure.
So,
and then he ruins Julie's sex life by basically getting her boyfriend murdered. So he's just like, he's a bit of a cockblocker, this Lucifer.
Yes, but not much of a cock mover, which is a shame. I'd rather him become lascivious, where he's so tempting that it's a James Bond situation that women want to be with him and men want to be with him.
Yes.
It's just like he's taken on all comers, everyone. And that would be fine in a movie in which people body swap. It's kind of by nature.
Yeah.
As it were, there's a non-binary thing happening here. So there's a lot of interpretations to it. I just don't know what is intentional and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think the movie does either. I think they have some clear ambition to play with gender and the way it's presenting and the result of, but they don't have a clear path, and as a result, neither do we.
Yes, I can tell you one link that is very for sure, that after the shower sequence, the lady who's the sister of the priest who has gin nose goes into a church, and as she passes by, there are two.
Those two little boys fucking outside. Yeah.
Yes. What was that?
Boys will be boys.
Sometimes you're 12. Your bikes have been taken away from you. Why not go to the public park and just have fucking sex in the middle of a square?
Yeah.
It's a real odd one. Anyways, she has a long conversation with the priest, and like, who could fucking care?
Yeah, like I said, the movie comes to a dead standstill whenever like the older characters are on screen.
Yeah. Although I do like the scene when he basically shifts from having a civil conversation with Margaret to then just being like, oh yeah, you ruined him and you're a terrible person and I hate your ideology. Get out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Like, oh, you're a wonderful person. Also, I hated you. I've always hated you. And you should die. You should die and go to hell. Anyways, I'm going to go back to my priest stuff.
I got to go back to planning the passion.
Because that is my passion. And so after this, we get another localized fog bank. And it turns out that we're looking at Julie's house. Which seems to be mostly abandoned. And inside of this house, the camera slowly creeps, and it is revealed that we are through the point of view of Andrew, who sneaks up on Julie by spooning. It's a spoon attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A sexual assault by any other name.
Yes. Well, he is Lucifer. I mean, what are we expecting from him?
Lucifer is an awkward, fumbling teenager.
Oh, gosh. The scene is so weird.
It is so fucking odd because on top of it being like, I assume the goal here was that he is seducing this girl because he feels a way about her and he doesn't know that she's the reincarnation of one of these angels and whatnot. But also,
which that seems like something the devil should know.
Yeah, they literally can't sense each other at all at this stage. Like they have no concept of what's happening. And yet he is somehow attracted enough to her that he seeks her out and gropes her in the middle of the night.
Yes, but he's very nervous about it.
Oh my gosh.
When he
so much fumbling
to get on top of her, one, his arm is shaking throughout it all, which is either I interpret that not as a weak upper body strength.
And here's the thing: is this the character or is this the actor?
Yeah, I went back and forth. You have to compare and contrast with the scenes when he's doing the push-ups.
Because when the camera observes his back, it is full of red hives.
Is that what that was? I was like, is that supposed to be scarring or like what is that all over his back? Is it real?
Those are hives.
Oh my gosh, he was like really super nervous and they just went ahead and filmed it anyway. Oh, that's kind of sad.
But do you want sad teenage fumbling sex in your Lucifer movie?
Yeah.
Because this movie seems to posit that you do.
Well, and I think that this is just so misguided. Like this scene is clearly supposed to be like she's having a bit of a sexy dream and then she wakes up and, maybe it was real all along. But there's nothing sexy about any of it.
No, because she's just blank faced. He's about ready to just shake into 12 pieces. Mm-hmm. And then he at the end, he just kind of does this wandering away. He's naked. And then he stands outside her window with a cape like he's Dracula.
Yeah. And why Dracula? Why would you bring in that motif of all visual iconography? No, you don't want us to be thinking he's Dracula. He's meant to be Lucifer.
But Dracula brings about a certain requirement, right? The 1979 version of Dracula just got released on Blu-ray, and I can tell you that is one sexy fucking movie.
Oh, yeah.
Every time Dracula is on scene, you're like, that dude fucks, and he fucks well. And he's telling every single person he's in a scene with, you know what's magical about me? My penis.
Yeah, Frank Langella redefines the word smoldering in that movie.
Oh, I'm glad you said smolder because I thought we were going to have to hear Patrick say moist again.
No, I think I covered it. This is and she wakes up out of it because he scratches her back.
Oh yeah, I love that. She's like, the little tip the hat to Rosemary's Baby, or rip off, however you want to put it. She's looking at her back. She looks like a fucking tiger went at her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, oh, that's strange. Yeah. It's like you've got these gaping claw marks on her back.
Those marks look inches deep.
Yeah. There are grooves into her back.
Again, she looks mildly perturbed.
Oopsie doodle. I have a scratchy scratch.
Yeah. Well, and she doesn't even react to the fact that her reflection in the mirror is that of an old lady.
Yes. But has she always been a lady? Because they're body swapping. So she hasn't always been a lady angel. Sometimes she's been a dude angel.
Yeah. This movie can't decide what it wants to do with that.
It doesn't. And did any of you recognize which Bay City roller she has up on her wall?
I did not. I was trying to look to see who that was.
Yeah, it's just all bad vests and pirate shirts as far as the eye can see. But I can't identify what human being has such a large poster of himself on her wall. And I'm dying to know, but I could not figure it out. You know how I love background nonsense.
Well, and there's not much else to look at because this entire house looks like it could be staged to sell the next day.
It is priced to move.
Yeah.
Because everything in this area is dire as fuck. So let's get to the second money shot of this particular sequence of the movie. And that is interior gym day. Everyone has been asked to line up. Everyone is wearing the tiniest of boy shorts. And there's a bit of business where the shortest guy in class can't figure out where to line up, and he's pushed to the very end.
It's so adorable.
It's very Charlie Brown. And then Andrew's name is called, and he saunters in because he's had a fucking night. Between yesterday's homoerotic kiss in the shower and his dream seduction of Julie, he's not on time for anything.
He is 54 seconds late.
Yeah, count them.
So he is asked to go off to the side and do 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups. And he starts with the push-ups because it's probably going to take him a half an hour to complete this test.
His little noodle arms, my God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he'd be there for the entirety of the gym class.
He's like into like push-up 3 and already like trembling.
Well, his form is actually very bad. He should be keeping his elbows closer to his body. He's doing very wide push-ups, which are hard if you have a bad chest.
Yes.
Can we talk about this gym teacher?
Oh my. I thought this guy was going to salivate at the mouth. He was rabid.
He was going to blow an aneurysm. He is like intensely getting into this dodgeball game.
He has like 2 modes. One is get him, and the other is throw the ball. No. Like, if you have problems with this guy's throwing form, perhaps you should instruct him. Teacher of children.
This is a PSA for why dodgeball should be outlawed in general, but specifically in high school gym.
It's like they're playing dodgeball, but they're also wrestling. What game is this?
They're going to war.
As Andrew goes through his push-ups, apparently the closer his sunken chest gets to the floor, the more everyone else's testosterone builds, to the point in which they're Greco-Roman wrestling in the middle of this game. Like all the rules go out the window, and I'm not entirely sure how do you determine you're out? Is anyone out? Like, what is the goal of this fucking game?
Well, do you think that this is meant to be a reflection of his powers, like a manifestation where he's elevating the testosterone and everybody's going crazy?
I have to believe that, because I have to believe that for what happens next, because there's no earthly explanation for what's about to happen. The only explanation is supernatural for when the coach picks up a rubber dodgeball and throws it at poor Mark, who was mere months away from his trip to Columbia, not the university,
right?
The record club warehouse where he's going to work for the summer.
Yes.
And he is rocketed back into the collapsed bleachers of the gymnasium, and that rubber ball collapses his entire chesticle area, and he spurts blood, and he is literally pinned to the wall by a rubber ball.
Well, here's the thing. Is it that the coach like threw it with some sort of otherworldly power, or is it that Andrew did some sort of like telekinesis shit?
Yeah, because it's almost like he's trying to get rid of Mark so that he can go after Julie. Not that we ever see him do it again. Because he had her once, and that was enough, apparently.
I did not enjoy that.
My arm still hurt.
Very palpable. Yeah. First of all, he's got a bunch of DNA evidence, which is not going to go over well.
No.
Secondly, he didn't seem to enjoy touching the lady.
No.
And, or at least not that lady, possibly any lady. That's not the real problem. It's just that it's not going to work out between the two of them.
Yeah.
So I don't see Mark as a real obstacle, other than the fact that Andrew just wants to hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. And he's driven the crew crazy to the point where the coach picks up this rubber ball and uses it as a spear, which I do not believe is possible.
I do love the coach's reaction, though. He just like falls to his knees. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
What have I done?
The principal always told me this was a possibility, and I never listened to her when she said, don't throw that ball hard. You might impale somebody against a wall. This is definitely going to come up in my employee review.
Can I amuse the two of you for a moment with a little bit of Wikipedia entry around this scene?
You can.
Sure.
So, Wikipedia is currently soliciting for people to give them money because 'tis the season, but I wonder if maybe we should do something around that, because some of these entries are absolutely terrible. So it says, during a gym class, one of Andrew's classmates, Mark, inexplicably suffers ruptured organs during a dodgeball game and dies.
This is to sound like his kidneys exploded or something, like on their own.
Yeah. So I was reading along with this just to make sure that because I wasn't sure if I was going to finish my part of the episode in time for this recording. And I got to this part. So I thought that we were just going to see this body explode on screen. And then you watch it and you're like, no, he got hit by the ball and he died. Like,
somehow it's even dumber.
It's even stupider than you have written in this very stupid entry.
Well, and then when I saw it, I wish that it had been like that. I can't remember what film it is, but the one where the person throws the basketball and it takes off the woman's head.
Deadly Friend.
There we go.
Deadly Friend, yeah.
I almost wish it had been that, and like the ball had just gone through Mark's stomach or something.
Just like a perfectly round hole, like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah, little death becomes her.
But nope, he's pinned to the wall by a rubber ball. And he, as Gena is very happy to always say, he spurts a bunch of fruit gushers out of his mouth. And that's it.
That's it.
R.I.P.D. Mark.
And again, the movie kind of plays around a little bit with like how much does Andrew know about what he is? Because now he's like, oh God, no. He's just like, weeping, in the back of the gym. And it's just like, well, does he know? Does he not know?
Yeah, to be honest, it all reminded me so much of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, not just because I was coming back to do another episode with you two, but yeah, this often seems like he doesn't understand not just the magnitude of his own powers, but also it seems like he goes into a weird fugue state. And when he comes out of it, he's like, oh, crap, somebody's dead. Am I responsible?
Yeah. No, it's very, he's in a very confused state when you're young and all of a sudden hair starts popping out of places that it wasn't before, and you get demonized when you're doing push-ups.
Right.
It's a very confusing time.
I mean, who among us hasn't?
Right. Well, not me, apparently.
It'll happen to you soon. Don't worry.
2020, it's going to be my year.
Keeping our fingers crossed, double crossed, as it were. So this is about the time where we got to choose our own death venture. That is, of course, if you were to die in one of the ways presented in this movie, what way would you choose and why? Up for bid in this particular episode. We have impaled on a thin crucifix, left to molder like a Lady Havisham with cobwebs all over you when the iron doesn't impale your head, and of course, destroyed by a dodgeball. And Mr. Lipsett, as our guest, I turn to you for your answer first.
I mean, I've got to lean into my brand, so I'm going to go death by ball.
And you're okay with just the one?
Well, I'll take the one if I can't get more. But yeah, I mean, if I get to go out wearing shorts, there are worse ways to go.
There are much worse ways to go. And, you got the legs for it, so you might as well work it while you got
Exactly.
it. Gena, what say you?
Well, when I was a kid and I had to play dodgeball, I was always pretty convinced that I was going to die. So it seems to be, poetic that I would go out the same way as well. Just, everything just turning to mush when I get hit with a dodgeball.
Yeah. Listen, if you watch this sequence and you're like, that is one of the craziest fucking things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You have to choose death by dodgeball.
Yeah.
There's only one path here, and that is death by dodgeball. I'm sorry. When I first saw this sequence, I laughed for 5 minutes.
Oh, it's so good.
When I watched it for this, I laughed for 4.5. It is fucking brilliant. It's not intentionally brilliant, but it's fucking brilliant.
There's just so much happening. Like I said, you got this very, very committed actor playing the gym teacher who's just getting his hysteria levels are just growing. And then you've got, Andrew who's pouring buckets of sweat doing maybe 10 push-ups. You got this sort of deathmatch dodgeball game. Just all the elements just work perfectly for this absolutely bizarre scene.
It's sweaty, it's grunty, it's confusing. It's everything we look for in a movie here on Kill by Kill.
Yeah. Yep.
So that just about does it. But before we go, of course, we always like to do a bit of plugs. Joe, why don't you tell everyone in our audience who may or may not know everything that's happening, what you do and where they can find it?
All right. So I like to write for a bunch of different places. So I generally just recommend that people check me out on Twitter. I'm at B Stole My Remote, and that's the letter B. Or you can listen to me gab relatively incoherently on a weekly basis on Horror Queers, and you can find that wherever you get your podcasts.
And I'm a huge fan of you and Trace on that show, on any of the shows that you've appeared, but I love your chemistry together, and I think that is a fantastic show. You guys are just endlessly entertaining.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. All right, Gena, where can people find you on these here internets?
Well, I have my own website, which I write about movies and old television and pop culture at GenaRadcliffe.com. I am also a writer for The Spool, which is thespool.net, and you can find me on Twitter under Porcelain72.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Of course, you can always reach out to us at Kill by Kill Pod on Twitter. We have the Facebook page and group, and we're on Instagram intermittently at what are we? Oh yeah, we're Kill by Kill podcast there. In terms of reviews, we've received a new one to iTunes where we stubbornly remain in the top 25 of film histories, an arbitrary decision that I made, I guess, when we started this podcast, which is paying off in huge dividends. Here is a review from Green _Sea Turtle, who says this podcast is amazing. And to be fair, this is the first podcast I've listened to, so I have
sorry.
nothing to compare to.
They started with the best. It's all downhill from here.
It's all downhill from here, or all uphill. But it's still amazing. And the wonderful hosts, Patrick and Gena, are so funny. They make me look forward to long road trips where I can listen to the podcast for hours. Friday and Nightmare are two of my favorite film series. And as well as my introduction to horror, my favorite kill from Friday the 13th is in part 4, when Tina is pulled out of a window and thrown onto a car, which practical stunts.
I was gonna say that's one of your favorites.
That's such a
good
one.
I love it. Love it to death. And my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street kill was Syringe Fingers Freddy.
Yes.
Sideways syringe.
That's a good one.
It is. Everyone loves to see a fight in an abandoned alleyway. Thank you for making the wonderful content, and please keep doing what you're doing. Thank you very much. If you would like to review us on iTunes or anywhere you get podcasts, please do so. It helps us be seen and heard just as much as your download is. So it's very important that we keep up reviews there. So if you have not done so already, or if you have done a review for us, but you listen to another podcast, review them as well. It's very helpful. And so that just about does it for us. Of course, we'll be back in a couple weeks with round 2 of Fear No Evil for the holiday season. And of course, we'll be doing fun things on Patreon as well. So please check us out there at patreon.com/killbykill. So until then, for myself, for Gena, and for Joe, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.